The murmur of whispers and the fluttering of papers filled the courtroom, and the atmosphere was thick with tension. The lawyers, dressed in their elegant suits, moved between their documents and their shiny shoes, sharp sounds echoing on the floor. In the middle of the room, Judge Harris sat on his high bench, his stern face commanding clear authority over the proceedings. He was known for his serious demeanor and sharp tongue. He surveyed the courtroom with practiced authority. Suddenly, the doors creaked open, and all eyes turned to see a young man entering, Ethan, who was no older than 17, carrying a worn-out bag in his trembling hands. His oversized coat looked out of place on his thin frame, making him seem odd among the seasoned professionals who filled the room. He paused for a moment, his wide eyes scanning the unfamiliar space, before nervously walking toward the defense table. Judge Harris raised his eyebrow, and a mocking smile appeared on his lips. "And who might you be?" he asked in a voice laced with contempt. "Did you lose your way to the school debate club?" Laughter filled the hall, but Ethan stayed composed. "I am representing my mother, Your Honor," he said steadily, despite his embarrassment. Silence prevailed briefly, then the hall burst into whispers. A teenager representing someone in court. The story of the underdog hero began to take shape, but doubts still lingered in the air. The story of Ethan the narrator began to unfold. Ethan's life was not easy. His family was evicted from their home after a legal dispute with a powerful landlord, and they didn't have the money to hire a lawyer. Ethan made an exceptional decision. He buried himself in law books, studying through sleepless nights, driven by his love for his mother and his unwavering desire to achieve justice. Today he was here to fight their case and secure their future. Ethan stood at the defense table, his hands now steady, despite the judgmental look surrounding him across the courtroom. The owner's lawyer was a man with grey hair and a confident appearance, smiling with disdain, as he saw in Ethan nothing more than a simple nuisance. "Mr. Daniels," Judge Harris said in a sharp but astonished tone, "do you mean to tell me you think you can handle a case this complicated without a single day in law school?" The audience laughed again, but Ethan didn't flinch. "Your Honor," he began in a steady and respectful voice, "the law allows any person to represent themselves in court. I've spent months preparing for this moment, and I'm ready to proceed." A flash of surprise crossed the judge's face, but he quickly concealed it. "Well, let's see what you have." Ethan began presenting his arguments with clarity and precision, outlining the timeline of events that led to his family's eviction. He cited laws and precedents, and his words were calm and persuasive. At first, the courtroom listened politely, but when Ethan began connecting the dots that no one had noticed, heads started to nod in admiration. Even Judge Haas began to look astonished, leaning back in his chair, tapping his finger on his chin, as Ethan exposed contradictions in the landlord's claims. Then came the big revelation. Ethan presented evidence indicating that a key document submitted by the landlord was forged. A stunned silence filled the room. The other plaintiff, who had been arrogant and composed, stammered over his words, unable to counter the arguments. The court to Ethan. Judge Harris, who had been annoyed at first, began to look at Ethan with a mixture of respect and curiosity. The teenager had changed the course of the case, leaving everyone wondering what would be revealed next, Your Honor. Ethan said in a clear and steady voice, holding a document with tattered edges. "With just a little repeated use. This is the eviction notice the landlord used to force a family out of our home. But if you examine it closely, you'll find something concerning." And he pointed to a signature at the bottom of the page. "This signature belongs to a notary who retired 2 years before the date of this document." A sense of astonishment spread through the hall as everyone realized the importance of his words. The other claimant, who had been arrogant and calm, turned pale and started searching through his papers, unable to find a response. Ethan continued to present more evidence that he had carefully gathered, including the notary's retirement date and proof that the document was forged. In evicting them unfairly, the owner not only acted illegally, but did so with the intention of deceiving this court, Ethan said. Judge Harris, who was always stern, began to show some admiration. "These are serious allegations," he said in a measured tone. "Let's see if you can support them." This was followed by a rapid exchange of questions, as Judge Harris tested Ethan's legal knowledge. Ethan answered each question without hesitation, as if he had spent years in the courtroom. When the questions ended, A very pleasant silence fell. Judge Harris said in a voice carrying newfound respect, "Mr. Daniels, you may have a future in law after all." After reviewing the evidence and hearing the arguments, the judge announced that the eviction was unjust and illegal. He ordered the landlord to compensate the Daniels family for the damages, including the illegal eviction and the psychological harm. At that moment, a stunned silence filled the room before applause erupted, filling the hall with a wave of emotion. Ethan, who was sitting at the table, covered her face with her trembling hands before pulling her son into her warm embrace. "I did it," she whispered in a broken voice. "I really did it." After the session ended, Judge Harris approached Ethan, his sternness turning into a slight smile. "Mr. Daniels," he said, extending his hand, "I owe you an apology. I was wrong to underestimate you. You have shown exceptional intelligence, dedication, and understanding of the law, surpassing many seasoned lawyers." Ethan shook his hand, his face reflecting both pride and humility. "I believe you have a talent," Judge Harris continued. "If you're interested in pursuing law, it would be my honor to be your mentor. The world needs people like you in this field."